What's up, y'all? It's Adam on the scene with two E's. We are back at it again, taking the opportunity to just engage, reflect on the weeks that I just experienced. But a lot of things really have been grinding my gears. When I say grinding my gears, ultimately kind of like pissing me off. And as y'all know, I am a butch queen living in Dallas. I have invited you guys along this journey with me with growth and physically, mentally, just developing and taking space in society. And, as I scroll through social media sometimes, you know, it really grinds my gears when I see people refer to themselves as butch queens, but I've never seen them nowhere near a ball. Like, don't walk balls, don't even have a proximity to ballroom culture as far as even as a spectator. But you're referring to yourselves as ballroom. And to me, it kind of like grinds my gears because it's synonymous to the frustration people have with the appropriation of moves like, and people calling it clocky. This don't mean clock it, boo. This ain't even the right finger to go about expressing this. It's actually this finger. And this is an opportunity for you to tell people, you ate that. You did that. That was cute. Fab. Different things like that. But, ballroom culture is so invigorating. It is so inspirational, it is motivational. It's something that I think a lot of people would really like to participate in, but it takes a lot of audacity and guts to put yourself out there and be judged and educated by your peers. But a butch queen is essentially a gay man who walks balls. So when I refer to myself as a butch queen living in Dallas, I want you to keep in mind that I am an individual who actively, as I'm currently, participates in ballroom. And that might look like walking a ball. That might look like being in a house. That might look like showing up for a ball. It's just, I participate in ballroom culture. I keep up to date with what's going on. I follow the balls. I take space and share time with people that participate in ballroom. So, I've been a butch queen, I would say, almost 2 years. So in May 2023 is actually when I walked my first Kiki ball. Yeah. That was my first time walking and putting myself out there to be judged by my peers. And at that time, I really didn't really know this, wasn't really too familiar with the scene. Grateful, shout out to the Gulf Coast. Even though I'm not from the Gulf Coast, as far as ballroom concerned, I will always be considered as a product of the Gulf Coast because the Gulf Coast is where I walked my first ball. So in the Kiki scene, I walked and debuted in my first house. I was a Lepore. Shout out to the Lepores. LA, PORE. No, but that's my bloodline when it comes to the Kiki scene. Shout out to the icon, Mother Natalie. I walked realness on the Kiki scene. That was interesting. How I came to that conclusion, I don't know. I feel like, a lot of times when people get introduced to ballroom, you might not necessarily know where you actually fit, but you do know you want to participate. And a great introduction into participating in balls is realness, because at least as far as a butch queen is concerned, as a male figure, realness, I would say is a easier introduction for people because it really doesn't require much. And that's not me minimizing the category, because realness is a very competitive category in my opinion. And it's also something that a lot of people probably just can't do. It's a lot of people who might not necessarily be able to equate realness, but I like realness because it was an opportunity for me to really understand or take the time to understand why a category like realness is was when it was a category, why it was something that was introduced to ballroom and still continues today. I feel like the idea of just being real and surviving in a society that um the more real you are as far as heteronorm standards, the more, it diminishes your opportunity to face um being a victim of different crimes just based off how you show up in society. And I'm always grateful for my ability to not just walk realness, but I didn't get chopped. During that time, I've sat a couple people in realness. Granted, it really wasn't something that it wasn't fun because it's not really glitz and glam. When you walk realness, you kind of gotta be real when you go to the ball and be cognizant of how you carry yourself throughout the duration of the ball and the night because you're being judged on how real you are in correlation to heteronorms. So that is what kind of like took the fun out from me. But I walked realness for some time. But simultaneously, as I was walking realness on the Kiki scene, I had caught the bug, the dancing bug. I I really wanted to dance. I think when I spent time as a spectator, because before I just walked the ball or allow anybody to say, "Hey, come walk this ball," beat walk realness, I actually spent time going to balls and just being a spectator. I think there's beauty in being a spectator because I think for me personally, I didn't want to participate in nothing and not really understand at least a general consensus of how things work. I wanted to understand what it meant to get tens. I wanted to understand what it meant to battle. I wanted to understand that they start on this side, this battle, and then the next battle they start at the other side. I think you need to have a level of strategy, but you kind of want to be familiar with who is who in the scene. So and just understand how dynamics work, politics work. Granted, those things are always ever changing, but you do want to show up with an ability to just kind of at least ingest what's going on. Because I remember the first time I went to a ball, it was just like a lot of moving pieces at one time. It was just so much going on, and it can be overstimulating, overwhelming. And so, me being an individual that at least just, I really like to put my best foot forward in anything that I do, whether it's ballroom, whether it's a new craft or a different type of hobby that I participate in. Hell, if it's even just cooking a good meal, I like to do some research on how to at least put my best self forward. I study. And so I spent time walking realness. And while I was walking realness, I knew when I was at these balls that I was invigorated or motivated or just enamored by people that would perform, that would vogue. I love the athleticism of voguing. I love the creativity and the individuality that you can explore with voguing. I love the way you can be influenced by different performers and different categories. I just think it is a beautiful expression. It's really sometimes hard to express it into words, even though I will try. But I was enamored by voguing, and so I took the opportunity to kind of learn how to vogue. Shout out to United Black Element, which is a program out here in Dallas, Texas, and they sponsor programs every Friday at Resource Center in the Oakland area called Vogue Academy. And the house that I debuted in, the chapter, I knew I wanted to Vogue, but at that time, in the chapter didn't really have anybody to teach me properly how to Vogue. They couldn't really break it down to me. So I started going to Vogue Academy, and it was an opportunity for me to learn. Shout out to the people like J Rock, Juicy Couture, Ebony. Shout out to him. He definitely has shaped and poured into the evolution of my Vogue. Also, AJ Nike or Sally Nike. She works here. She serves and supports the advancement of Vogue Academy, and a lot of the different legends and icons and statements and stars and just partakers in the Gulf Coast have been a part of this process of me moving into performing. And so my first year, I spent a lot of time just walking realness. And then at the start of my second year in 2024, I walked performance. In March, I won at the Soul Train Ball. So that really, what I would say, is the moment where I was just like bit by the bug. And I was like, okay, I can actually do it. Granted, it wasn't honestly, when I look back at those clips, I say, it was good. It's like a piece of clay. It still needs to be sculpted into a fine piece of art. But also, if you have a lot of clay, that is an opportunity to sculpt it however you want it to be sculpted. So, and then I moved into mainstream in April. I walked as a 007 in April, and then in June I debuted in my first mainstream house. And I've just been kind of moving on from there. And I would say that ballroom has really just been a great opportunity for me to learn and grow first and foremost in ballroom, but it's also given me an opportunity to learn just who I am. I think who I was when I first started ballroom is it's a lot of similarities, but the way that I guess I express myself is much differently. I think I have been exposed to a variety of different people that have taught me a lot of lessons around acceptance, accepting who you are, accepting the things that you're interested in, accepting, exploring the things that you always might have wanted to dibble and dabble into, but it's always rooted in taboo. I've come across people and been motivated and inspired by their boldness to just be unapologetically themselves. And ballroom has given me an opportunity to express myself unapologetically. Granted, there's highs and lows. It's not always easy. You there's confrontation sometimes, but at the core and the why I show up and participate in ballroom is because, one, it is something that is fun. Like, it's just a high that I can't really express. And so that's why when I see people referring to themselves as butch queens and they don't really truly understand the culture or even participate in the culture, it is synonymous to that level of appropriation that doesn't really, like, that kind of grinds my gears. So, I would say, if you don't walk balls and you want to you want to label yourself as something, just say you're a gay boy, a queer individual. I mean, I truly believe that butch queen is reserved for participants of ballroom culture. So if you don't participate in ballroom culture, you really should not be referring to yourself as a butch queen. Granted, I can't tell people how to refer to themselves, but in my world, a butch queen is an individual that walks balls. And so I was also thinking about, when I just reflect on ballroom, at the 2024 Olympics, they had breakdancing as an apparatus that could be an apparatus at the Olympics that, they give medals and different things, and the people really wasn't giving it. And it led me to believe, like, voguing is truly a sport. And I would not be surprised that in the next decade or years to come, if ballroom has the potential to be contested as an Olympic level sport. So I did some research on what are the requirements to become an Olympic sport. And I think the only thing that makes like voguing kind of like not really be, I think that the only thing is there needs to be an international kind of like guideline on on it to make it be considered a sport to be tried at the Olympics. But I feel like if breakdancing is something that is a contested sport in the Olympics, voguing should be, because it requires a lot of athleticism, flexibility, technique, and it is it is a sport that, I mean, it is something that is done internationally. It is not just exclusive to the United States. There are people that perform in Asia. There are people that perform in Europe, South America. You know, there's the houses that make up ballroom are now international houses, and so they have a reach amongst the world. And I think that is an audience, that there is an audience of people that should be included into it should be included in the Olympics, especially. And I don't know, I just think that that's something that should be considered. But it really do grinds my gears sometimes, really, just listening to people refer to themselves as butch queens and they ain't nowhere near a ball. Ain't nowhere near ballroom. I mean, who am I? I'm just Adam on the scene with two E's, a butch queen living in Dallas. So, please, I don't know. It's just been so much going on in the world right now. I would say another thing that has been grinding my gears. Okay, so grinding my gears. So it is a ritual of mine. I don't know about y'all, but for me, in order for me to go to sleep at night, I have to watch an adult cartoon. I don't know. It could be Rick and Morty. It could be Family Guy. It could be, lately it's been American Dad. I have been really watching American Dad, and it's no shade. Some of that stuff that they was airing on national television with American Dad, looking back, is a little eerie and creepy. Like that alien, Roger, y'all got to get it to him. American Dad is something else. But I say that to say, it grinds my gears when I watch it on Hulu. I guess I'm going the cost effective route because I pay for the subscription that I have ads. But when I'm watching the ads, I I hate seeing the big pharma companies and their ads for these different medications. And I don't know if it's just me, but I watch these ads. They're like, you get this pill, it will help you with these symptoms, these symptoms. But then they'll come about with the side effects, be like, don't you could get your gallbladder removed. It might spike type 1 diabetes, which can be deadly. If you take this, and this, you need to consult your doctor before you take that. I mean, and then the stuff that they don't want you to know about the meds is sped up. Like they just be zooming right on by it. And I guess I'm just nosy and I'm just curious. It don't zoom past me. I really be tuned in, and it just got me into this rabbit hole about the gray area between like big pharma and its impact and advertising on consumers in America. And when you see those ads in America, just know, like, America, the United States and New Zealand is the only countries where pharmaceutical companies are able to directly advertise to consumers through ads on TV, ads in magazines, and ads on when you listen to Pandora and different music. We are the only country that do that, right? But we're also a country where you can't go and have access to medicine on the way that you want, if you need it. going to the doctor is extremely expensive. Um, there is a myriad of people swimming in medical debt and different things like that, and but yet we live in a country where we are advertising and putting batteries in people's backs to go to the doctor and inquire about certain medicines. And then so when I went into my rabbit hole of research, you know, it was called the, let me look it up. Hold on. Basically, in the, this has been an ongoing issue since the 80s or 90s, essentially saying what is morally, or not morally, but what is constitutional. Let's use that word. What is constitutional, right? Where do you draw that line between giving a consumer access and awareness to medications that might support them in combating different ailments, and then on the other hand, what is too much of an advertising? Because we are consumers and we need to know what medicines is out there and what they can ail, but we are also not medical experts to be saying what is necessary and not necessary. So it can, these ads build up a lot of like hypochondriacs, like people that go around self-diagnosing themselves and referring to things that are natural, that are going to happen as a problem. And then you have people walking around taking probably medicine unnecessarily, or you have, it messes with the morality of these companies that's supposed to be creating these medicines to uplift the health of people. But now that you're advertising and investing money into ads and different things like that, you could get sick, greedy individuals that's willing to take advantage and tell people they have a problem when they don't have a problem. Why is there an ad for a medicine if you're going bald, when we all know that going bald is a natural human thing? And why is it that you need to go take a medicine to address you being bald, but then have the opportunity for you to acquire another disease down the line, only for the big pharma to really be making money off of people thinking they have problems when they don't have problems? Oh, you had one bad day where you was feeling down and depressed. Now you got bipolar disorder. So now you go to the doctor and say, I seen this medicine that's supposed to help me with my bipolar. So now you taking a medicine that is supposed to help you with your bipolar disorder, but then it has a side effect of you peeing blood. I'd rather have a day of being depressed than to go to the doctor and get a pill about being depressed, but now I have these other side effects, right? And then also a lot of things, especially with medicine that addresses things with the mind, like psychotic medicines or psychosis, is a lot of times once you get on those medicines, you have to stay on those medicines for you have to stay on it, because the moment you try to get off of it, you're kind of like messed up, and just now you have made yourself dependent on something that you might not have wanted to be dependent on. And so I I mean, that just kind of grinds my gears, just knowing that every time I watch TV, I have to see an ad about medicine, all kind of ailments. I mean, I don't know. but it's something to be considered because they're celebrities. Like when they get these celebrities to be influencing people to do these commercials for these medicines, like that has to be paid for. It is not cheap to get an ad on TV. By any means, that's not cheap. And nobody is just spending money on advertising without expecting anything in return. So ultimately, it goes back to what I was saying, like something that continues to grind my gears is capitalism. Capitalism is truly a problem in this nation because everybody is willing to sell their soul or to not do what is right for $1. And then when you have amassed this money off the backs of people, you know, these big companies like Amazon and Jeff Bezos and his fiance, get these people that amass these amounts of money and kind of do things that are just scream out of touch with what is going on in society. And it's like, I'm not here to tell people how to spend their money. So I guess this is a beautiful segue into another thing that grind my gears, but I was a little bit, I guess I wasn't perturbed. Like I didn't lose sleep. I know it don't directly impact me, but it really just did not make logical sense to me why these women went to space. I have the names of these people. These women went to space about a week ago. Aisha Bowie, she was an American aerospace engineer. Okay. Amanda Guyan, she's a social entrepreneur and a civil rights activist. Gail King, a journalist. Katy Perry is a pop star. And Carrie Ann Flynn, she's like an executive producer for some network. And Lauren Sanchez, she's a journalist, but she's also simultaneously married to Jeff Bezos. If you don't know, Jeff Bezos is the founder and he stepped down some years ago, but he was the CEO of Amazon. He has a net worth of about of roughly $190 billion. I don't really know if people really understand the magnitude of what $1 billion is, but I'll put it like this. If you saved $1,000 every day, it would take nearly 2,740 years to become a billionaire, right? So that's just long. That's longer than the average lifetime spent. And so that is where the issue lies for me with capitalism, right? It's like, I'm not saying you're not supposed to make money and profit off of things that, you know, a business you started. There should be like, we should, you know, it's such a slippery slope because I wouldn't say I'm a socialist, but there are some cons to capitalism where you get where the income gap becomes so drastically. You have only these certain select few people that have access to this wealth, and then you have a lot of other people that can't even survive in the economy because the money is being distributed disproportionately, right? And so you get people that are above the glass ceiling that have access to these extreme amounts of wealth, and it just seems like they're bored and they're wasting money. Essentially, Lauren Sanchez, who is Jeff Bezos' current fiance, was like, "Bae, I wanna go to space, and I wanna take some of my homegirls to space, and we just want to go fly around and look at space for 5 to 10 minutes." That don't make sense to me. I don't get it. I mean, and maybe it's because I exist in the world as an individual that is not swimming in a large amount of wealth, but I could watch that. I could, like Nene Leakes said, I could look at that on the iPod. It's a satellite out there that can show you everything you just spent millions of dollars to go see. And you want to hide it under the guise of We want to empower women in STEM. We want to show little girls that they can be pop stars and go to space. So why is it that, why? Okay, so if that's the case, you send them up there, but why is it also that the suits that y'all wear in the space are collabs with a designer? Why is it that y'all are selling shooting stars with microphones and y'all made money off of this? Like, this is not just something to really just say. It's actually pretty a waste. It's just a waste to me. It's like, the more money you amass, you get bored. I don't gotta go to the Maldives. I don't gotta go to Ibiza. I don't gotta go to Bali. What happened to going to Bali? What happened to going to Thailand and just playing with the tigers? But furthermore, why are you so, for lack of better words, horny to go be in space when stuff on Earth ain't even together? And then on top of that, I don't know, but shooting a rocket into space is horrible for the Earth. The amount of carbon dioxide that is released into the atmosphere, the deterioration that happens to the ozone layer with just a quick trip like that is extremely damaging to the Earth. And if you really, I feel like if you're gonna put under guys like, I want to show women, I want to do this for women and the things in the society, there is so many other things that are pertinent and pressing that that money and those funds can be allocated to. There are single mothers, women. Spend that money to advocate for women to have access to have the right to their own body, have rights when it comes to their body. And this was just the girls' trip in 2025. Back in 2021, Jeff Bezos went to space because he was like, I'm not going, now he just trying to spread the wealth to the people around because he did it first. Well, it really was just a space race amongst billionaires. They was basically in a race to say who was going to get to space first. So a billionaire from another country, he had actually technically made it to space before Bezos. But Bezos, who is this billionaire that run companies like Amazon, got a little bit of extra $1 million to just throw away. He went further and took more people with him to the space. One of those seats on the first space exploration that Jeff Bezos went on was auctioned at $28 million. I feel like it's so out of touch and grotesque. And like, I guess these missions were successful, but they hadn't really been done before. But it really puts me back in that mindset from 2022 when them billionaires and millionaires got in that damn submarine and went to go see the Titanic and died. What was the point of that? It's like, we gotta do better as a society with just being out of touch, right? And it's like, it's always, I don't know, I wouldn't even say it's always, I just feel as if it just grinds my gears that we live in a society where there are people that are really that out of touch. Like, you pay millions and millions of dollars to go take a selfie out of space. That's honestly how I feel, in my humble opinion. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, that's just something to think about, and it grinded my gears, and it pissed me off. Another thing that grinds my gears that has happened to me, I would say recently, is being referred to as gay. I'm queer. There's a difference. I think that, you can there's nothing wrong with being called gay. I'm not saying that. But for me personally, like my identity, I identify as a queer person because I think that queer is more all encompassing with gender expression, how you create the mindset and the outlook that you take in this world, with being that it is more fluid. Like I live in a more fluid outlook and persona and things about life. I don't really live in with rigid binaries, whereas being gay puts you in a binary as far as there's only one thing. And being called gay is usually an opportunity for others to label you for their comfort so that they can understand you. And I have always kind of lived my life with saying like, there's no box that anybody can put me in. I have honestly come to the conclusion like I will never say never. I don't really know who I'll be with. Now, whoever I'm with, and I'm down with it. But just there is a binary that I feel that is associated with referring to me as that. So I'm saying now today, like I am a Black man first and foremost, because those are my most salient identities. When I say salient, I mean when you look at me, I'm Black, I'm a man. But so I'm a Black man who is queer, meaning you never really know what to expect from. I don't even know. I wake up one day and say, I wanna be with a rabbit. I'll be with a rabbit. I'm just playing. I'm not into that. Like I'm not taking it there, but I'm just saying like I feel like a lot of times we live in a world where people will box you in order for them to be able to digest how you show up. And especially just being in ballroom, I have been empowered to take space as the person I am. I mean, the ever changing and ever evolving person I am. Who I was yesterday is not even the person I am today. Another thing that grind my gears. So as you know, Sunday was Easter, but I did not realize that Easter is not a federal holiday. Y'all is playing in Jesus' face. If I gotta get up and go to work on the day that Jesus rose, I better be getting time and a half. It's no shade. It is not a federal. I really gagged when I researched and it said that Easter is not a federal holiday. Y'all, whoever know how to get holidays to be regarded as time and a half, Easter needs to be a time and a half holiday. Yeah, that's a little bit of the things that's been grinding my gears. I really saw some new music that I've been listening to. K Tronada, shout out to K Tronada, a fellow queer individual. He's a DJ from Canada. If you know, you know, but he just remixed one of my favorite artists, Mariah Carey's Don't Forget About Us. You can check it out on SoundCloud. You can check it out on YouTube. And the way he just transformed that song, refreshed it, revived it. It's a vibe. When I hear it, I envision myself driving in a convertible. For me, it'll probably be like a Lexus. It would be sporty. A nice, beautiful day. I see myself going across the bridge, going like 75, maybe, and with it blasting and you just vibing. Like it's a vibe. I really been heavy into house music and Afrobeats music lately. I think that it's a night, it's not always just listening to, something with the crashes and the boom coulda cat cat cat, but it still make me want to move and make me want to dance. And I think y'all should check that out. But yeah, that's really, you know, a lot of, yes, that's some of the things that's just been grinding my gears. I don't know. If something's been grinding your gears, feel free to share it in the comments. Let's unpack a lot of the stuff that honestly, like, you wake up, you open your phone, you get on social media, and it's so much going on at all angles all the time, whether it be in your immediate network, whether it be in the ballroom community, whether it be on a national level, people shooting up schools, racial inequity, people dying because they're not being handled appropriately under medical care. You got people who are emboldened because of these symbols. I call them symbols because that's what world leaders are. But the symbol that we have in the highest power in the United States has emboldened people to engage just negatively with people. I just think that we need, you got the baddie mentality. Everybody want to fight somebody. Everybody want to be nasty and negative. And I am just ready for a time when, especially now within my own community, I think it's more important now than ever to really take a step back and really attempt to be each other's peace, because we have so many outside factors implicated are just daily survival. And it's just very disheartening to see how we can be people that advance the same type of hate that we once was fighting against, or the same type of hate that we would be in an uproar about if an outsider or a person that didn't look like us or take space in our community did to us. We will be screaming hate crime, hate crime, hate crime, hate crime, different things like that. But we advance a lot of hate within and inflict a lot of harm amongst ourselves, and so I just think that we need to really truly just get back to a place, like, I wouldn't even say respect, love, flowery, hold hands, like, but can we just work to a place of tolerance? Like, do y'all know what tolerance mean? Tolerance is the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular the existence or of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. So I'm not saying we're supposed to be walking around agreeing with everything that other people do, other people say, but that should not be an opportunity for you to be trying to take somebody's head off, or humiliate somebody, or hurt. Like, I mean, 2 + 2 is 4 in my world. And the more I take space and see how things are unfolding, the more I see that 2 + 2 is 9 to some people. 2 + 2 is 2,000 to some people. Like, what happened to just common sense and dignity, and common dignity, common respect, so that's what I feel like I would empower you guys to just kind of consider. But that's really what's been grinding my gears. You guys can check out some of my latest articles on my Substack at Adam on the Scene with 2 E's on Substack.com. I have some videos on my YouTube that I uploaded. I uploaded a video last week where we ate some crawfish and we talked about unity in the community amongst ballroom people that take space in ballroom throughout the Dallas area specifically. And before that, I think I had a video where I talked about revenge porn and men getting up in drags, different things like that. This is just an opportunity for me to connect and share with the world what's going on with me. And I would love to know what's going on with you. Like I said, if there's some things that's been grinding your gears, you can leave them in the comments. You can message me directly. And, thank you for tuning in to Adam on the Scene with 2 E's.